What's up, guys? The Common Sense Messiah is back to challenge another mainstream narrative, and as always, this is going to be a narrative that is going to fix your relationship once we challenge it. And this is going more to those men who are in pursuit or in the early stages of a relationship. So stay focused, yeah? So the narrative that I want us to challenge is this whole idea that men have, where they tend to think that the longer you pursue a woman, that translates into her valuing the relationship much more, and that it's going to be that much harder for her to leave the relationship or do away with it. And this mentality comes from the older generation of men, the older millennials and the Gen X's, because during their time there was this enforcement on morality that was so much focused on virtues, especially surrounding sexuality, such that the women at the time would not just give in to anyone. And there was a lot of stigma associated with women practicing out their sexuality in the open. So for them to submit to a man or to say yes to a man, the man had to really go far and beyond to prove himself to be worthy of this woman's attention, time, sexuality, and even a relationship. So that's where this originated from. But the unfortunate thing is, these men have raised their sons, the current younger generation, with that mentality, and this tends not to work in this generation. In fact, it is so false, such that the young men who are getting into the dating or the sexual marketplace with this notion are tending to have a really rough time with women, because as it is, we live in an era where everyone is sexually liberated, and the women have been practicing out their sexuality in the open without consequence, and there's no longer that enforcement on the dignity on their part. So that just allows them to operate from a point of sexual instinct that is just natural without any moral binding or any moral grounding on how they should practice their sexuality. And that's what I want us to address. So that's the narrative I want us to challenge. And the challenge that I'm going to impose on that narrative is that female nature actually is the opposite of that fact, because female nature dictates that when a woman finds you attractive, or she's naturally attracted to you, and she is in fact interested in you, she will make it easier for you to have her. And in most cases, she's gonna make it so much easy for you that she's going to make herself super available to you, because she doesn't want to miss out on being with you. All right, that is, the higher the attraction, the more she's going to be willing to give herself to you, and the less she's going to play hard to get. Why? Because at that point, she is the one who's attracted to you, and that she doesn't want to miss out on that. All right, so the opposite of this fact is also very true. If a woman is not interested in you, she's going to make it that much harder for you to have her, and she's going to impose stringent rules and hurdles on your way. And most men tend to love that thrill of the chase, but in real sense, what she's communicating indirectly is that there is a certain degree of disinterest that exists there. So now that you've acknowledged this fact, I want us to go deeper into it and understand the dimensions that exist within the mind of a woman, because it really isn't just as simple as I'm making it sound. There is levels to this thing, and depending on the response that you get from a woman when she is pursuing you, then and only then can you get to know how the degree of attraction she has for you. And put this in the I'm gonna get into the female state of mind and list how they categorize men. And it's gonna be really simple. So in the mind of a woman, these are the ranks that she has categorized men under. We have the guy who is her dream guy. This is a man who possesses all the quality she finds desirable in a man, right? And then after the dream guy, we have what we call the possible second. This is a guy who has majority, or at least some of the qualities that she finds attractive in a man, and doesn't have all of them or majority of them, but has some of them, significant amount of them, for him to be a possible second to the dream guy. After the possible second, we have the middle ground. And the middle ground, this is what we call the okay guy. The okay guy is just that. He's okay, right? Nothing that exciting about him, nothing that big of a red flag. He's just okay, all right? And after the okay guy, we have the last resort guy. The last resort guy is the type of guy who, if worse comes to worst, that's the least she could settle with when it comes to a man. So after the last resort, we have the hard no. These are the guys that she could never end up with. All right. Now, when you pursue her, depending on where she has placed you on this attraction scale, she's gonna have a different response for you. All right, and the response is gonna be dependent on where she has placed you. For instance, the dream guy is gonna have a very easy time with this woman because the dream guy possesses all the qualities that she finds attractive in a man, and because he has all those qualities, the lady is naturally attracted to him and can't really say no to him. So he tends to have it very easy with the woman. All right. Same can be said for the possible second, because when you're listing a dream guy, in fact, if most of you guys go ask a lady to list the qualities of a dream guy, she's most likely going to list some qualities that are extremely hard to find in one man. All right. 17 or 20 something qualities that are just impossible to find in one man. So for some of them, the dream guy tends to be unachievable. So the possible second just so happens to be the next realistic thing they can achieve in terms of a man. This is a guy who possesses a good number of the qualities she finds attractive, not all of them, in some cases, not even most of them, but just the significant ones to be enough for her to find him attractive. And this guy also tends to have a very easy time when it comes to this woman. Now, there is another level to this. When we go to the okay guy in most cases is going to be the type of guy that finishes last. In most cases, the okay guy is the quote unquote nice guy. You know the popular saying, the nice guy finishes last? That's the okay guy. Okay? And in most scenarios, the okay guy and the last resort guy tend to be the same person, because for most women, they tend to not go lower than the okay guy. Why? Because standards, right? So the okay guy will tend to be the type of guy who is not a red flag and is giving enough of the good vibes. So she tends to want to keep this guy in her circle most of the time by managing his expectations. So he's never really saying no to this, she's never really saying no to him, and she's never really saying yes to him. She's just constantly tailing him around, ensuring that he's around her and managing his expectations. And in most cases, these are the type of guys that are get to be put in the friend zone, all right? The type of guy who will pursue this woman, and every time she's like, okay, I'm not ready to get in a relationship, you know, I'm comfortable with us being just friends. So, and the if this guy decides to pursue beyond that, in most cases, the lady will tend to enforce boundaries, all right? Because she doesn't want to give in to him. But she understands something at the back of her mind, that this guy could potentially be a good mate in future. For what reason exactly? Because he possesses majority of the qualities that would be defined by what we call a stable man, or a man capable enough to raise a family. All right. So they never really want to miss out on this guy. They just want to keep him around long enough. And while she's saying no to this guy, what is happening? She's going out with the dream guy and the possible second, saying yes to the man she finds naturally attractive. All right. And on the further end of the spectrum, you have the last resort guy. All right. So the last resort is a similar. We can put them in the similar category with the okay guy, but then after that we have the hard no. The hard no guys, these are the type of guys who will pursue a woman, and the woman will be like ew, or she's disgusted. She's like, the hell. And for such a woman, you are she's so disgusted by the idea of you being attracted to her that she will want to do away with you completely, such that if you continue to pursue her longer, if she is that much repulsed by you, she might even take a restraining order, or even file a harassment suit and use the text messages as evidence, because they just find you that much repulsive. So for the hard no guy, he's gonna get exactly that, a hard no. So to the type of men who have gotten that response from a woman they're currently pursuing, my advice to you is this: do not continue pursuing. Respect yourself. Go get a woman that finds you naturally attractive, because they exist, women who find you naturally attractive, and if you don't like them, then you can upgrade yourself to a point where you start naturally attracting the type of women that you would say yes to. Now, for the okay guy and the last resort guy, these type of guys tend to waste a lot of years, because you realize by the time the woman is saying yes to you, you've wasted 4 5 years of pursuing the same woman. Yet in that time, there were multiple girls that you didn't pay attention to that were naturally attracted to you and would have provided for you better odds for, a proper relationship and even success in the long term in terms of a marriage compared to the one you're pursuing. Because what she's directly communicating to you and you're not reading is the fact that she's not interested in you that much enough for her to want to say yes. All right. So for the last resort, sorry, for the next, that's the possible second and the dream guy. These are the guys who are winning. So there's not really much I can advise them because they can decide whatever they want to do. They can marry the woman. They can, decide to, have sex with them, whatever it is. So they're just generally winning. So they don't really have any restrictions on their part. So depending on the response that she gives you, now at least you know where she's placed you. The hard no guy will get exactly that, a hard no and a potential ew, or she's disgusted. The okay guy and the last resort guy will be tailed. You're never really getting a no and you're never really getting a yes. She just wants you in her circle constantly, preserving you for something. It's the long game. Why? Because she understands there is much value to the type of man that you are and you will service her needs potentially in future. You are her insurance policy. And what do I mean by insurance policy? By insurance policy, I simply mean that she is planning you for her future where she's past her prime because she understands that the dream guys and the possible second guys, these are guys who tend to attract a lot of women. And in that sense, it is much harder to bag them permanently or even to end up in a happy relationship with them. They are aware of this. So even with the A-list celebrities that we know who tend to, like the sports people, you have the musicians, the girls that are within their circles that are interested in being dated by this guy and who have access to them, they tend to operate under the delusion that they are the only one, all right? And they tend to operate under the delusion that they are going to bug him permanently and, maybe be the one who's going to get married. But it never really operates like that. So in the modern age, the women have learned this and they will still hang around these types of men and give them access to themselves while having a guy who is an okay guy and a last resort guy within their circles, so that when they are past their prime, when they can no longer be of interest to such types of gentlemen, she can say yes to this guy finally. And it's unfortunate, but I have to say this: these are the type of guys when you're watching these wedding shows and when you're watching these um, wedding shows. These are the type of guys who you hear them in the, during the when they're giving the backstory of how they met with the woman. They tend to speak a lot about the past of how hard they try to get this woman. Yeah, they say, oh, I tried to pursue her for years. She kept brushing me off, but eventually she said yes. And they say it like it's a badge of honor. And the reason they're saying it that way is because the men that raised them, their fathers, are coming from the generation where that was an actual badge of honor because that was indicative of the level of the dignity of the woman that you're pursuing. But in the modern day and age, attraction, sex life, and all this pair matching is so decentralized and so damn accessible that we cannot impose the same standards that were imposed back then to the current situation. So the man will sit there and brag about how long it took to pursue this woman and eventually he bugged her. But in hindsight, she has a whole list of guys who have been through her. And it's unfortunate. And eventually what ends up happening, because this guy was not like the number one guy, he was not top of the attraction cycle there that this woman had. If in future any of her exes try to make a comeback, any of the dream guys that she's been with or any of the possible second guys that she's been with tries to make a comeback or tries to have access to her when she's within the relationship, then because she's still naturally attracted to this guy, she's going to have a very hard time saying no because she can't really combat or fight the level of attraction she has for this guy. So she's going to either end up cheating or going to end up resenting her husband because right now a better man has presented a case for wanting her, and this is what she's settled for. So it tends to create that toxic dynamic that exists within couples, and that's the main reason why you get to see a lot of fights and a lot of infidelity cases, and also the main reason why we're having a lot of men failed paternity tests because such was the situation. She settled with you for the stability you offer. To her, you were just an okay guy, but she got pregnant for the guys that she was naturally attracted to. These are the top tier guys in her attraction metric. The dream guy, the possible second. That's the danger that comes with settling for such a woman. So now that you know the response that you're getting from a woman you're pursuing, then you know how to respond. If she's making it super easy for you to have access to her, chances are she's super attracted into you, and she's super into you and she wants you as well. If she's tailing you or constantly delaying you but never really giving you a hard no, then you know to her you're just the okay guy. All right? And if she's giving you a hard no, trust me, there's no amount of self-improvement or anything you could ever do that will make you attractive to this woman. So a woman who's giving you a hard no, just stop pursuing that woman, go pursue other women. All right? So that's how the attraction metric of a woman works. That's how their brains operate when they are rating the guys that are constantly DMing them, pursuing them, hitting on them in the workplace, if they go out for a concert, if they out with their friends. That's the metric they use to gauge the quality of these men. So based on the response she gives you, now you know where you lie, and now you can make a better decision. But my recommendation is, if she gives you a hard no, stop completely, go pursue other women. If she's tailing you and never giving you a hard no, never giving you a yes, she's just friend zoning you, you are the okay guy. Go pursue other women. Respect yourself, all right? Because if you fall into her trap, you'll pursue this woman for years and years. And then you'll fall into the trap of thinking that you won eventually because you're the last guy to have her. Yet, if you look at her history, she's had a whole list of dream guys who are banging her and all these things, right? If you're a dream guy or a possible second, and the response she gives you is she's into you, she makes it super easy for you to have her, well, good for you. Good for you. Continue winning. So that's it for today. That's the mainstream narrative that I wanted us to challenge. The longer you pursue a woman, just shows that she is not interested in you. All right? Your fathers, your grandfathers will have you believe that the longer you pursue a woman, then that means that she's going to value that relationship even much more, and that she's not going to want to get out. But in real sense, in the modern world that we live in, the longer you pursue a woman, she's just making it hard for you to have her, then that means she's just not interested and is not worth your time. So that being said, have a nice time, and I'll see you in the next one.